Well, I got it. Well, hello divas, demons, and dolls. This is your geeky goddess and accidental lip sync assassin of season 16 of RuPaul's Drag Race, Megami. Oh, it's in the sign in the back. But yes, I am now officially in my YouTuber era and will be posting videos every single Thursday right on this channel. So please make sure you subscribe so you can see all of my unfiltered thoughts on everything from pop culture to other pop culture. That's pretty much, I mean, look around me. So please help my little channel grow by hitting that like and subscribe button. You know all the algorithm is a mess, god damn it. But welcome everyone to my home. This is where I keep all my geeky junk because I am a collector of fine things, as you can tell. And I wanted to start out with probably the most requested thing that y'all asked me to film, which is my beautiful makeup tutorial. So if you're interested in going from this to this beautiful woman, I'll have some tips and tricks that'll help you go from busted and dusted to diamond encrusted, darling. But also, please stick around to the end of the video because I have a very special announcement about my new bi-weekly YouTube show. Us Drag Race girls, we love inviting our sisters to come sit and chat and spill the tea. And, you know, my version of this is gonna be a little bit unhinged and chaotic and stupid as hell. So you're not gonna wanna miss it because next week on Thursday, I have a very special guest that you're all gonna wanna hear about. So stick around to the end of the video. But okay, now that we've gotten all that out the way, let me get this area set up so I can start transforming into the beautiful goddess that you all know and love, or at least tolerate. Well, hello darlings, I am back after what I'm assuming was a very tasteful and well-edited transition, but I am here, I have my mirror ready, and all my products are down here. So let's get into this mug, shall we? Okay, so first up, I always like to kind of draw in my eyebrows just so that I have like a good starting place as to where the rest of my face is gonna fall. I feel like the eyebrows for me are very important, but also are the one thing that I mess up the most. I would rather just sketch it in so that I know by the end, like, everything's gonna be perfect. As you can see, I am not a brow blocker girl. Like, I just shave them off. Blocking your brows just takes up too much time. I am on a busy schedule, baby. Like, I just wanna get this face on and get to the gig. So yeah, I have my little, like, Shiba Inu nubs, and that's where I like to base my eyebrows off of, just like to give it some kind of like natural starting point, and also have like a little bit of the natural hairs in there so that it looks a little bit better. So if you're expecting me to teach you how to block your brows, sorry darling, this is not the tutorial for you. And this is the NYX, no, oh my god, I feel like a real beauty influencer. This is the NYX Epic Beauty eye marker. Just wanna like draw right above my natural brow bone right here, where my natural brow would be, because you know it's drag, baby. You gotta give them the drama. I want to look like a Disney villain. Me with this like my bejeweled turban here, saying I want to look like a Disney villain. Of course, I love a good old-fashioned bitch brow, baby. Like I want to look like I'm angry and fierce all the time. It's a little more forgiving since like a lot of this is gonna get covered up. That's why it's in like a light brown. But for now, I think, you know, that's a pretty good place for my eyebrows to be. Next up, step 2, which is where I'm gonna reveal to you my #1 must-have product. It is none other than the very classic Ben Nye Clown White makeup cream. Like look how destroyed this package is, and like baby, she's been used. The Ben Nye Clown White is professional theater makeup, so like she is very strong, very opaque and thick and compact with that pigment, and I use it for pretty much like all my highlights. What I do is, because this cream is very, very dense and like packed in there with the pigment, I like to loosen it up. I come from a fine art background. My first degree is my BFA in fine art and illustration, and you know, I use a lot of techniques that I learned from like literally painting on canvas. So like, you know, if you're painting and you're using acrylic paint and it's too dense and you need it to be more liquidy, more movable, what you do is you add like a clear medium. So this is the NYX Plump It Right Back Up primer, and it is clear. It just gets the pigment in the white like very loose and malleable and able to be like spread around. So I'll just give it like, you know, 2 squirts in there and grab my trusty highlight brush, which I am a tourist down, because when I find something that I like, I will stick with that shit forever. This brush is being held together with bobby pins and duct tape, and you know what, this is the best brush that I have, and I got it from like a 99-cent store. You know, things can be cheap and still be good. So once you have that primer in there, I'm just gonna take this brush and like swirl it around. You know, it'll just loosen up the pigment in there, make it very liquidy. Instead of putting cement on your face, you're putting like, you know, paint on your face, a little bit softer. So once I have the brush nice and saturated, I'll go in and kind of follow underneath my brow here and just, you know, paint it in white. And the reason for this is because when you're like using a coloring book, let's say, or painting on a canvas, like the colors and the pigments will pop a lot more on a white surface than they will on, you know, a skin tone or brown tan surface. Like, it's just like, you know, the colors show up better. And I'll also paint into the corner of my eye so that like later on it'll blend into my highlight a little bit better. Now I gotta do the same to the other side. Okay, and you know, I know I look sufficiently crazy here, but you know, drag is all about trusting the process. I promise you, it looks crazy, but like, baby, eventually in the end, it'll all make sense. So like, trust the process. You're gonna look crazy until you don't look crazy. So, you know, now that I have my like eyes all nice and packed in and white, it's time to use the sister product to the Ben Nye Clown White Cream, which is the Ben Nye Super White Powder. And this is to set the white makeup without losing any of the brightness, because if you use any powder that's like toned, it'll dampen the color. It won't be as bright. So, you know, you need to use your super white. And I didn't mean to rhyme there, but I am, you know, the ghostwriter of Drag Race. I'm holy. So rhyming just comes naturally to me. And so for that, I will usually just pour a little somewhere. You know, not too much. I'll just pour it on here so you can see it. And I usually use this like teardrop shaped beauty blender powder puff, which you can get at any Sephora, anywhere. You can really use any powder puff, but like, I like this teardrop shaped one because it like lets you get into tight areas, but also is like big enough for big areas. Gently tapping it into the powder and starting from the inside of my eye, patting it in and just making sure that it's nice and covered and that this white makeup up here is set. Because you don't want to start putting your powdered eyeshadow into a cream. Like, that'll just be a mess. Your brushes will be a mess. You need to set it and dry it. So, and don't be too scared about making a mess. Like, obviously it'll all get cleaned up later. So yeah, once that's all in there and set and nice and dry, like, it's not coming up. It's all dried. What I do is I take my big poofy powder brush and, you know, gently brush away all the excess. You don't want it to be now too powdery, so it's all about balance. So now we're ready to start putting in the eyeliner and the eyeshadow. So what I like to use to sketch in my eyeliner is, you know, pretty much any like eyeliner pen. Right now, this is the Haus Labs eyeliner pen. I do have the one size eyeliner pen, which is fantastic also. I've used the NYX ones, which are pretty good too. So really it can just be anything. This is more at the beginning. I like to sketch in a lot of the structure of where things are gonna go, so that later at the end I can really fine tune it and get it looking nice. But I like to you know, sketch it in. I'm an illustrator. I like to, you know, make sure the lines are where they're supposed to be before I start like getting everything perfect. So with the pen, I tend to like to follow my eyebrows up, like in the direction that they're, in the angle that they're going. So like it would just be like, yeah, you know, you want your face to be snatched upward. So for me, I will follow my eyebrow direction and just like draw in that line so that I know where the outer edge of my wing is gonna end up. And then from there, can start at the inner part of your eye and just draw around and connect the two. So you see, there's the shape of my wings eyeliner. So I know a lot of you may be looking at it and being like, wow, that's a big ass like eyeliner. And the reason I have to draw it so big is because if you see, like, if I were to do it small, I also have very hooded eyes, so a lot of the pigment and the color I put there just ends up disappearing into my eyelid. Like it's just something you have to work around. Not everything I do will work for everyone. You really have to just kind of look at a makeup tutorial and figure out what works for you and your face and your bone structure and your eye structure and everything, and take bits and pieces from everybody. So yeah, I draw very big, bold, graphic eyeliner wing because, you know, it's what shows up best on my face. So now that I have this one, the other side, I always find it best to have like a point to draw to. So that's why I do the outer line first and then bring this up into it so that I know I'm not like, you know, bringing the curve all the way up, halfway up to my temple. And that's kind of the point of sketching this in first, is so that later, after you've done all this work, you're not like continuing to add more, because I've been in those situations where like I'll do one eye really cunty, and then when I go to do the other one, like it's either too small or too big, and then I have to make this one bigger to accommodate for that one. So like it's nice to just have the bones on your face. I'm very used to having bones on my face every time I go to Rock Bar, baby. That one is a joke for the girls in New York. Yeah, that looks about pretty even now. So the next step I do is to draw in the crease. And how I will do that is to start from the lowest tip of my eyebrow here and curve it around to meet, you know, probably around the outer edge of my actual eye. I usually find that that's where it looks nicest, but I think it works specifically for me because I have very hooded eyes, and you know, I like a bold graphic moment. So yeah, that's generally where I will put the crease at. You know, it gives a lot of space for color, a lot of room for activities, and then, you know, mirroring that on the other side. So yeah, I think that's actually pretty good. So once I have, you know, this is kind of like, this is the outlines in the coloring book of like where things need to be. So now we can start coloring in the coloring book. The one I use the most often right now is this basic canvas palette from Painted, because I love neutral colors. I love earth tones. It is like the thing I use the absolute most. But most importantly, it's the black and all the brown contour pigments that like I need those in every single color. But this palette just like has the colors that I use most often. So this is the one that I've been using a lot recently. So I will take any, you know, just any like small, very tight brush, like it, not one of the big poofy ones, just a very small compact brush, and lightly like dab her into the eyeshadow, the black. I start from the corner of my eye and just lightly buff in that color. You know, I don't like to like be too rough. You know, you want to put the pigment onto your eye and just move the pigment around. And you know, this is the place where I'm gonna teach you the word of the day, which is like what all good drag makeup, and you know what, all makeup in general and all painting is the most important thing to learn. And the word of the day is gradient. Oh my god, did you see that graphic just pop up below? So you really want to be able to successfully create different gradients all over your face so that it looks smooth and natural, even if you look like a clown, because that's really the toughest skill, is, you know, making colors and contour and highlight and everything blend seamlessly into each other. So I like to start here by, like, you know, putting in this dark pigment, because this is going to be the base on which everything else comes off of. So now that I have this base of this dark eyeshadow following the line of my crease, is when I can take one of these bigger, poofier brushes, you know, the actual eyeshadow brushes, and start buffing in that color. So I will always start after that with a lighter color. So for this, I'm going to start with this very light peachy color right here, and kind of just like gently buff that into here, just to give it, you know, this is the lightest tone. So yeah, we're gonna start with the lightest value here, and then once I have that in, now we can go a little bit deeper into the scale, give a little bit more of a mid-tone. But so now the mid-tone is gonna go even smaller than the light tone. You know, we're making levels here. So we're bringing it like just through the middle here. Instead of like the lighter part goes all the way around, the middle tone will be right in the middle. Hence the name mid-tone. It's in the middle. Duh. Do the same on the other side. And then now with a like slightly bigger brush, you know, something that's like kind of in the middle of these two, like the really small compact one and the big poofy eyeshadow brush, I'll go in with, you know, an even darker tone, but that's still lighter than the black, and give it that like low tone, right like between the black and the mid-tone. You know, you wanna, and it can go like right over the black too. Like I'll add more black right on the line later. I like to just keep buffing it around, moving these pigments so that like it just like naturally fades upward. Okay, and I've packed all this color into here. You know, sometimes I will leave my crease just white from honestly just being lazy. But what I can also do is choose one of these brushes. I like to take a very light color and stamp it into the crease. You know, the darkest part should be here where, you know, all the corners meet. And don't worry too much about like, oh, it got on the darker part. You want to pack this color into here and slightly like work your way out. Not too much. You don't want to go, I don't like to go too much into the corner of my eye here. And then to really like zhuzh it up, I can use an even darker tone, but just in the corner, because that'll really like make a nice fade. See, I'm not going too deep into the lighter color, just kind of like darkening the little edge right here. It's very sultry, it's giving autumn, you know. It's like we're here, Brat summer is over, it's time for Christian girl autumn. So I think we're at a pretty good place with the eyeshadow up here, and I know some of you may be thinking, like, you know, I've seen people do all their foundation and contour and stuff first. I like to do my eyeshadow first because I hate when the fallout of all the color and the eyeliner and everything gets into my foundation, and just, I feel like it makes it muddy. So I will start with the eyeshadow and just taking one of our, you know, trusty makeup wipes, just slowly go around and clean everything up underneath. You don't want to take off too much of the white. I like the highlight around the eye. So now that that's all off, it's time for my primer, which I use the one size to cure the blur. So just putting a little bit on the tips of my fingers and slowly just working it around my face. I like to go in with my one size concealer, and I use this especially on the high part of my cheek because for whatever reason this area of my face gets very, very oily. Like whenever I put the regular foundation on it, it just like, it doesn't stick the same way. So I like to make sure that this whole area is very concealed. And you know, this I'm not being very particular. Maybe like the most important part is like this line here, which is, you know, another thing of me liking to sketch in certain aspects of my face beforehand, so that later it's just easier to know where like to buff in things. It doesn't even you don't even have to add more product. It's literally just like whatever's left on the brush. I'll do it on my upper lip because it's a lot stronger and a lot more opaque than the foundation will be. So, you know, it's almost like color correcting. So once I have the concealer on my face, the next step is to put on the foundation. What I've used is the tried, true, and tested Dry Queen product, which is none other than the famous Kryolan TV paint stick. And these are, you know, very full coverage, opaque, thick foundation. This is theater makeup made for, you know, the back rows of the Gershwin Theater. Like, baby, you are gonna be painted for down. It's so compact and full of like pigment. One of these will last me like a couple of months. I think they're like 25 bucks. It's really not super expensive. So the Kryolan TV paint stick, it is a Drag Queen staple. So I'll just, you know, gently swipe some of that onto the areas without concealer. Definitely a couple of swipes under my neck. One in the middle of the forehead, and then on the temples. And then I like to go over my, you know, mustache and beard area. I don't want to cover like my highlight cheekbone area because that's where all like the bright colors are going to be. I don't want to dampen it down too much before we brighten it up. So now that I have the foundation on, it is a great opportunity to go and wash my makeup sponge. So I will be right back. Okay, so now that I have rinsed out my beauty blender, which is just, you know, any standard beauty blender, you can get it from Sephora. I like the Beauty Blender brand blenders because a lot of the cheaper ones are just like regular sponges and will absorb a lot of the makeup instead of blending it and moving it around. So really, like, I do recommend getting like an actual Beauty Blender brand beauty blender. Beauty Blender brand beauty blender. Oh my god.
Bert Hermgeif. Irv Hermlinger. Bing. Live hanger.
Oh my god, that is like a tongue twister. So besides the hygienic reasons of washing your makeup sponge, like, you know, obviously you shouldn't be putting dirty sponges and brushes on your face. It also serves a functional purpose, you know, given that the Kryolan TV paint sticks are very thick, opaque makeup. Like, That minute of washing allows the makeup to kind of melt into your face. You know, it mixes with the oils, natural oils on your face. It, you know, softens with the body heat coming off of your face. So it just makes it a lot more pliable and easy to work with if you just like let it sit for a second. With the big, you know, thick butt end of this, I like to, you know, kind of pat and drag a little bit, making it as even as possible. I don't like to get too much into like the highlighted area. Put some on my nose. And then now for my forehead here, well, let's take this off. I like to blend upward, and you know, for these tighter spots, you can use the pointier end of the beauty blender because it's what it's made for. And I like to kind of drag a drag queen, the pigment upward, and here I like to drag it inward. You know, I don't want to get rid of too much of this highlight along the side of my eye. So like drag it slightly. You can use the big butt end because like there will still be product on this side of it to kind of buff it around the forehead. Now, I don't like to do too much foundation in my hair up to where my hairline would be, because you know, when you go to glue your wig down later, if you have a ton of layers of product here, the wig glue is not gonna hold as tight as it would. So I don't like to have a lot of product in where my hairline would naturally sit, so that it's easier for my wigs to like stick to my head. Because you know, I don't want to be one of these girls who loses her wig during a lip sync. That's a big no-no unless you're Sasha Velour or Maya Iman LePage. So don't lose your wig. So now that I have my foundation, you know, spread out evenly all across my face, it's time to get into what is probably the #1 most requested tip and technique from me, which is, you know, Megami, how do you get your highlight so bright on your eyes? And that is, once again, our good old Judy, Miss Ben Nye here. And yes, I put Clown White on my face as my highlight. So very much the same way that I did when I was putting on the makeup for my eyes, I will, you know, pump a little bit of the primer into there. It's clear, very much the same thing. Just swirl her around, loosen up that pigment, getting the brush very saturated with all of that pigment. So now that I have this brush packed with this Clown White cream, you know, I also like to use the lid to kind of swipe it back and forth to flatten out the bristles of the brush so that it's easier to use. And I will just start from the inner corner of my eye and curve it around and just slowly follow. You see, this is where that line comes in handy. You know, following this line, and just very small brush strokes, spreading this white foundation cream downward. So now I'm gonna take, you know, good old-fashioned trusty dusty beauty blender, and with the pointy end, starting from the bottom part of the foundation here of the white, I'm just gently kind of tap this along the edge. With the white that's already on the beauty blender now, kind of get into my waterline. It already is looking a lot better. So just slowly making that gradient of, you know, super white highlight up here into my natural skin tone. And it's always a good rule of thumb, something that I learned from, you know, when I would take painting classes, that you know, it's a lot easier to go from light to dark than it is to go from dark to light. So that's why I'd like to try to start mostly with the lighter highlights and then do the contours, because like if you do something too dark, it's a lot harder to get it bright again. And so like really on my nose here too, I like to bring it across to like really kind of meld it all together right over my upper lip and then right the center of my chin. So now that I have all of that buffed into my face, now it's pretty much just time to set it all. I will set part of my face with the Ben Nye Super White powder. Just the same thing, like starting in the corner with the tip end of it, putting that white in there, and like slowly buffing it outward. Now we're not going too far down. I just want to keep the white, the whitest, lightest, brightest part, you know, light and bright. And maybe a little bit right here and a little bit down here. You can also use the side of the powder puff to like roll into these parts around my eye. Now is another one of my like absolute must-have favorite drag products, which is the One Size Ultra Pink powder. This is like a game changer for me. I do not use the like translucent powder. I think it looks too muddy and gross. Like I love this One Size Ultra Pink powder. I do have very kind of warm undertones, a lot of red in my natural skin tone. So like this Ultra Pink just like, it blends so beautifully. So now using, you know, the big powder puff, the big one, just like the edge of it, pretty much, I fold it in.
You just fold it in.
Schitt's Creek reference. You know, just put the tip of it, and then just like puff that onto the everywhere else that wasn't covered in the white powder. And now I'm like really beating my face. And don't worry too much if it like gets on the white powder. A lot of it is gonna get dusted off anyway. So you really just want to make sure that like all the parts where you haven't set it yet, you haven't put powder, get covered. Okay, so now that I've set my face, we get the, you know, good old-fashioned big beauty over here and dust off all the extra powder. Now you don't want to look too chalky and ashy. That's all off. Now it's time to get serious. Now, you know, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns, baby. Grab our palette back here. And this is another one of those brushes that I absolutely cannot live without. This is the contour brush. So with one of the edges of this contour brush, I'm gonna slightly tap it into this like nice warm brown color here. It's not too dark. I don't want to like immediately go way too dark on my contour, but I don't want to, you know, start too light and then it's like there forever adding more and more and more. So like I'll go in like a deeper mid-tone brown and start from the top of my ear here and just drag it underneath my cheekbone towards the edge of my lip here. So I'm using the side of the brush here to get this line. And then I can use like more of the main body of the brush on its side to kind of like just like buff it outward. All about the gradient. You want to diffuse the color a little bit. You know, really get a nice contour under there. I don't want it to get too close to my lip, but I also want it to like, you know, create the illusion of this like angular sharpness, because this is very ladylike. I'll do my under neck, like my jawline contour, starting here where, you know, the color would be the darkest. Another thing that you will probably, if you've ever taken an art class or an illustration class or anything, they'll probably always make you kind of draw a sphere and like use the shadows to like make it look three-dimensional. And you know, things that are darker are naturally perceived to be further away, so you want to like always have the darkest parts be like the things that you want to recede in the back. So like underneath here, you know, you want to make sure you want to try to make your neck look nice and thin and, you know, feminine. I will always have the darkest pigment be like right underneath my ear, and then slowly drag it across my jaw, underneath my jawline. So if you're looking at it on this side versus like what it looks on this side, like it is like, it's night and day. Also, another good place to have a lot of contour is right underneath your chin. Especially like me, for someone who is like a little bit on the thicker side, like you wanna like kind of thin out your neck a little bit. And then the last thing on this side will be the kind of temple contour. So using that line that we drew before, following it right across, right into the eyeshadow. Back here by your ear is really where the darkest part should be. And kind of moving that dark pigment up. You know, this is one of those things of like, you want to have the center of your face always be the brightest part and the sides be darker, because you don't want to like get too much on the white highlight part or on the highlight around your eyebrow. Well, now that I have my face contoured on both sides, I think pretty evenly, one of the last things I'll do is to add like a dark contour down the center of my nose. You know, just a strip down, and then using the like the nubby part of the contour brush, just buffing it out slightly so that it's not such a hard edge. We'll go back to that later. Now try to dampen down the white to bring it more into an actual skin tone color. And what I use for that is the L'Oreal True Match bronzer, and it's, you know, in what I assume is like my skin tone color. And with another big poofy powder brush, just lightly swirling that around there. From the top of my cheekbone, like right underneath, kind of slowly buffing that upward to kind of even that tone out. And you can do it for the part underneath your brow bone also, just to like, you know, you don't want it to be like super white, but like, you know, I like to keep just like the center and then maybe like the topmost point here, like that'll be the brightest. But then, you know, you wanna once again, our favorite word, gradient, make it fade upward. And you know, a lot of this is just being kind of like gentle and patient and not rushing it too much, and kind of allowing the pigments to do what they need to do. And it's also nice to have this like my like powdered foundation color, because it like allows me to like buff everything else out and make a nicer, smoother gradient again from like the darker contour into like my actual skin tone color. Okay, so now that we've like kind of brought down a lot of the super white brightness into like an actual person, human skin tone color, next is the blush. And for the blush, I do like to use the L'Oreal True Match. This is the color Rosy Outlook. And with one of these big poofy blush brushes, gently tap and swirl around a little bit, and just like lightly, like when I tell you like I can do this with the edge of my fingers, just because like I don't want it to be too heavy. And you know, go follow along between where the darkest part of the contour is and then the middle part of where your actual skin tone is. Like follow that line to kind of bridge the two with the blush. This is another thing that I'm like, because of my natural skin tone has a lot of like red undertones to it, I will also use this to kind of go a little bit more all over my face to kind of even things out where I feel like the gradient isn't smooth enough. Definitely right along the jawline, because I don't want it to be like this sharp white like contrast. So like you gotta tone down the color a little bit. Okay, so now that we've done the blush, we are getting there. We're almost in the home stretch now. We're getting a lot closer to fixing up all the crap that I did in the beginning. So now it's time for one of my other like secret patented techniques, which if you watch the Hey Queen interviews on Wow Presents Plus, specifically the one with Raven at the end of the season, you know, she commented on how much she loved my like under cheek highlight, and this is how I do that. It's one of the things that made her say that I was a contender for mug of the season, even though everyone knows Morphine Love Dion is mug of the season, but period. But at least I'm a contender, so that's nice. Thank you, Raven. So what I do is, once again, breaking out my super secret weapon, the musty, crusty, dusty, old Ben Nye Clown White. And for her, I like to, kind of the opposite of what I've been doing before, is to take as much pigment off of the brush as I can, because this is going to be a little bit of dry brushing. And that's, you know, another technique from painting, when you have like a more or less dry canvas and you like with a very non-saturated brush kind of buff in some color there. And so with a very lightly saturated brush, I will start from under like my ear on my jawbone and draw in where I want the kind of contour to be. And if you, I don't know how well you can see it, but you can see like it's not as wet as it was before. Like it's a lot more patchy. That's because like dry brushing paint onto my face. And it really just like gives that super pop of like brightness right under the cheek to really accentuate that cheek line. And just following it forward, not adding any more pigment to the brush, slowly bringing everything from the brightest part in the back towards the front. The same thing on the other side. I like to use whatever's on the cap, really. Just very, very lightly. Just a little bit of pigment. It should be like, you should be able to feel kind of like the texture of your face like fighting against the brush, because like, you know, it's dried. And if it looks like, you see how it looks super patchy? That's the whole point. And so once you have that, you get out your good old trusty beauty blender. Like, don't even have to clean it from what it was before, because, you know, you want the pigment of your foundation to mix with the white of the under cheek. So just very lightly, just tapping it. We're not dragging it, it's just tapping. You want the brightest part to be this part in the back. This should be faded out into your natural skin tone. So again, not dragging anything, just tapping, you know, beating that color in. And so now that that is all like very, very nice, bright, highlighted, we're going to use some of that white powder again and set her. But I like to, you know, you gotta dry it off, make sure that it's nice and set. And so now, while that is setting, it's time to kind of go back and fix this mess up here that like never dealt with. So what I'll usually do is to grab that like eyeliner pencil once more and kind of go back in and start lightly sketching in my brows, my like actual brows now. just basically like following the template of what I drew in at the beginning. And I like to do like short little strokes because I feel like it's easier to control. Okay, well, you know, these are pretty good. I always do love to kind of give like a couple of little short little strokes at the edges of the eyebrows to make it kind of, you know, look like those little natural hairs. So that it's not too much of just like a block of color. So now we're done with the brows, it's time to fill in the eyeshadow, the wing liner area. And for that, I like to use this product called DM Color Fix Matte. It is just a liquid, you know, what is it? Matte liquid pigment, yeah, and it's waterproof. So, and that's kind of why the lid of my Clown White looks like this. Because like, you really only need a little tiny bit. So I will just do like a little drop, like even that is like maybe too much. For that, I like to use what is otherwise just like a brow brush, and you know, the sharpest edge of that is perfect for like getting into these really tight detail areas. So with the sharpest edge of this brow brush, just picking up this black pigment very loosely. You know, you want to make sure that the brush stays very sharp and flat, and using the edge to kind of just draw in the rest of the eyeshadow. So we're only kind of doing the middle part of it. I'm not doing the edges too much yet, because like that is requires a little more focus, but like already a lot better than it was before. I'm gonna just do the same thing on the other side, just filling in the rest of my wing here. So for the lines that like go along the edge of my wing and that create the crease, I like to make sure that I pat it, like swipe it on both sides to just get this as flat and sharp as possible. And then very slowly, very intentionally and concentratingly follow that line upward and smooth out that edge. And also for the line underneath, basically just following the template of where, if you can see the natural point where I drew in earlier, it's still under there. So it's something like, it's a guideline, you know? Okay, now that that's in there, can follow the line on the top of the crease now to kind of smooth and even that one out. And this is a good time to like, you know, pull the pigment upward a little bit to kind of blend more seamlessly into the brown. And can fix it up even more by using one of these like smaller brushes and going into the black eyeshadow and very gently, very lightly kind of tapping that over just to set that black liquid eyeliner, slightly buffing it out. Now of course doing the same thing on the other side. And so now that I have them even, or more or less, any more finer detail, I can use the eyeliner pencil or the eyeliner marker. We'll add like a little bit of a sharper edge to the inside corner of my eye, because I like to look as like, you know, villainous as possible, you know, very severe, cunty, sharp woman. I think one of my biggest like inspirations is like Helga Sinclair from the Atlantis movie. I just like love how like, you know, vampy and like very fierce she looks. So I mean, like you see how like sharp that shit is. versus like this. It's very rounded. It's very, you know, demure. But I don't want to be demure. You know, demure women never change the world. Yeah, I mean, like that's a sharp lady, baby. Not to be confused with dark lady. I don't know. I guess my like one of my biggest inspirations in like makeup is like Disney villains. You know, what gay doesn't love a good old-fashioned Disney villain? Like that's what I was raised on. Okay, so now for the under eye portion, I basically like to draw like triangles. So following the outer edge of my wing, basically going downward into my under eye from this line that like follows this trajectory here. I'm doing on the other side also. I'm gonna be drawing like triangles underneath my eye basically. So like that's one side, that's another side, and then connect them. I like a bold graphic eye. You know, it's a signature look. I want to look like a comic book supervillain at all times. I think it makes it give the illusion of like a bottom lash, like very, very full eyelashes. Then I like to go back in with the, what is it, matte liquid pigment, just because it's a larger area to fill, and like doing it with the marker will take forever. With that pigment, once again, just going in and filling it in. So you see how like, I don't know if you can tell, like the line, the outer line of this under lash follows up into the outer line of the upper wing. So like it all like, you know, it makes some kind of sense, I think. Just a very bold graphic eyeliner. Yeah, so now that that's done, now we can finish the bottom half. So with the, you know, trusty big old poofy brush over here, just go in and buff downward. I feel like get rid of a lot of that excess setting powder. And then back with our other big poofy brush, taking the like skin tone bronzing powder, tapping that in there and lightly buffing it in to just make this very white highlight more of a neutral skin tone color. You don't want to like neutralize it too much, because then what was the point of doing the highlight if you're just gonna make it your skin tone color again? The darkest part should be around here, and then, you know, slightly buffing it backward to keep this part very, very light on the edges. This is always a good place to like make everything kind of a neutral medium, so that like it isn't just like this very sharp line going into your mouth. You can grab the blush again, same thing, and kind of, like I said, just I like to follow the line of my natural cheekbone, because that's where, like, you know, my cheek point pops out the most. So like you wanna give it that vampy V look. It also definitely helps to kind of like soften these very hard edges with a little bit of this like nice blush tone. Ooh, you know what? This is really good. I'm like surprising myself. Can't leave the nose out. Going again, kind of doing the same thing we did under the cheek, but only right here on the nose. Gonna be a little more dry brushing right onto the center of my nose, and it doesn't have to be super even. So like for this, I actually just use my finger most of the time, and we'll just kind of swipe it up on both sides to like even out the line. And then at the top, we'll kind of smush it in and like drag the pigment down a little bit. Then with one of these like taking kind of maybe like a very middle lighter shade of the brown, very lightly, kind of. Just making that contour pop out again a little more. Once again, setting in white. And then with the blush, I'm gonna just buffing it out. Now you can see I didn't, it kind of got away from me a bit at the tip. So, you know, you can always just add a little more dark. And now it's time for the lips, darling. So what I use the most often for my lips is these Sephora lip stains. They are very cheap, very affordable. I think they're like $12 or $15 each. And baby, when I tell you these last, so the one I'm using today is in shade number 01. I forgot what the hell the name is called, but it's like the very red. I do love like a signature red lip. It's pretty much like the color I use the most, unless I'm doing like a very neutral, like brownish beige lip, which can be nice too. But like, I love a red lip. I think it's so like bold and signature. I like to start by applying a little bit right in the middle and kind of patting my lips together to like see where it'll naturally fall whenever I'm talking. I also like to, you know, open my mouth and like draw outward and curve it around underneath. You know, I don't want to go too into the corner of my lips, because then that's when it like starts to come outward and looks very clowny. You know, constantly like patting my lips together so that like, maybe I will sit here and like smush my lips a million times just to make sure it's like, it's in there, it's dried, it's not gonna like smear all over my face. I know a lot of girls love a nice lip gloss, and you know, I love the lip gloss look. My problem, however, with lip gloss is, as someone who is very expressive in my face, so whenever I am lip syncing and performing, it's very like the lip gloss just smears everywhere, and then like whenever I like open my mouth too much, I'll just end up with like my chin is now all stained red because like the lip gloss just came from the bottom of my lip. So now that I have my lips in a good place, let me like do some final look arounds and touch-ups. I think the only other thing I'm gonna do right now, there's two more things. This one, I'm gonna take this NYX Epic Wear waterproof white eyeliner and just add like a line at the edges of my wings, because I feel like that makes it pop so much more than like, you know, this is nice, but I feel like this is like graphic. She's a super modern ultra graphic, oh wait, I fucked that up. She's a super graphic ultra modern girl, and you can be too. I just love the way that like it'll just like pop, right? You know, the white contrast just makes it like come out. And then I'll do a little bit of white right underneath my eyebrow, very little bit, and then use my finger to kind of just smudge it outward, you know, give my brow bone a little bit of a highlight. So now that that's done, the very last thing that I always do, I always like to make sure that I have my beauty mark on my cheek, and just using, you know, the eyeliner marker, just gently drawing in a circular motion, and that's her. That's the Megami mug, baby. And now you can set it with the, you know, the pièce de resistance, the featured performer here, the One Size Until Dawn setting spray, baby. She is that girl. I have literally jumped into a swimming pool during a drag performance, and my mug was still set, baby, because like this girl, she'll get you together. Spray her on. Make sure I like to spray my eyes, across my eyes, just to make sure this is all nice and set and perfect. That's the Megami beach. Baby, I'm actually kind of annoyed that I don't have anywhere to go tonight because, like, honey, she's looking good and soft. Let me go put some lashes and a wig on so that I can, you know, show you the full fantasy. Be right back. Oh, okay. And there she is, baby. Oh my god, look at this woman. Baby, she's giving. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video the whole way through. Once again, you know, I really think that makeup tutorials can be a useful place to learn new techniques, learn new ways of doing things, try different things. But I really think it should be just that. Like, unless you're trying to do me for Halloween or something, don't think that there's only one way to do makeup. There's like a million ways to do the same thing. So like, figure out really what works best for you. What is your signature stamped mug? And, you know, figure that out. Yeah, oh my god, I can't stop looking at myself in the mirror. I think I look so fucking good. Oh. But yes, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell if you want a notification anytime I post a new video, which I will be posting a brand new video next Thursday. And it is the beginning of my brand new kind of like, I don't want to say interview show because it's not really an interview show. But I am so happy to announce the beginning of Megami's Mile High Cinema Club. I love pop culture. I love anime and cartoons and video games and movies. So I thought it'd be super fun to invite a special guest over each episode. And basically, we're just gonna smoke a ton of weed and watch a famously bad movie. And I am so happy to announce that my very first episode next week is going to be starring none other than my season 16 sister, Miss Amanda Tori Meeting. And we will be starting out very strong. We are going to be smoking a ton of weed and watching the absolute camp classic Showgirls. So please tune in next Thursday to watch me and Amanda Tori Meeting, you know, talk about the movie, talk about our lives, talk about everything. I'm like, I just love talking to my friends. I love complaining about movies. It's gonna be a very fun, interesting show. So I'm gonna be doing the cinema club every other Thursday, and in the Thursdays in between, I'm gonna be doing kind of my own YouTube videos. You know, I think the one after that is going to be a season 16 episode ranking where I go through every single episode of season 16 of RuPaul's Drag Race and give you my honest thoughts and opinions as someone who was there for half of them and who wasn't there for half of them. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to sit with me and to watch me become this woman. Oh my god, like, I hope you all had a great time, and I'll see you next week with Amanda. Bye.